developed hydrogen-oxygen rocket engines. Please turn off your cell phones. Multi-stage heavy lift launch vehicles, in-space life support, spacesuits, lunar landing techniques, re-entry techniques, space navigation techniques, deep space communication network, rendezvous. Please turn off the cell phones. Okay. Abilities, space nuclear reactors, RTGs. You could go on. Basically, the entire bag of tricks that we have used to perform human and robotic activities in space was developed in that period, as well as flying people to the moon on that in that period. Without the focus, I mean, what significant advances in human spaceflight capability have occurred in the past 20 years? 20 years of Apollo-level funding. What? Okay. What fundamental new achievements? In my view, the only significant achievement to the human spaceflight program in the past 20 years is the launch and repair of Hubble. Okay, that was good. But that is not equivalent to the budget and the waste, 2 decades of activity and the deaths of 7 people and so forth. That is not a commensurate level of achievement. And that is what you have without an objective. Now, the program is really quite incredible because, okay, there has been a significant body of opinion in America, and particularly among liberals, must be said, that the money spent on the space program would be better spent elsewhere on various social programs and so forth. And that is a point of view that I don't agree with, but which I can respect. Reasonable people can differ over whether we should be spending money on human expansion into space or, well, okay, it'll probably be done by the time I'm shutting down. Can you please tell this computer to just don't do anything until it's told to do it?
Just keep going.
Okay, by the way, is this the mic that I'm using right now? Okay. Okay, one can respect that. There certainly are other priorities in the world that other people might favor. But the Obama plan did not save money. They did not reduce the NASA budget. In fact, they increased the NASA budget by 6%. But they basically turned it into an undirected program with a program that 10 years from now would have us in a conference of this sort saying, in what way are we better prepared today to send people anywhere than we were in the year 2010? And the answer will be none. Okay? And they're going to spend money. They're going to upgrade the shuttle launch pads after the shuttles have stopped flying. I'm not making this up. They have budgeted $3 billion a year for the space station program for the second half of this decade, even though they're not building any new modules and they won't be doing any launches to it. $3 billion a year, that's a lot of tang. Okay, I mean, that's enough to pay 30,000 people at $100,000 a year each. What's going on? They want to have a major initiative to develop electric thrusters, claiming that this will enable fast transfers to Mars. But they will not develop the space nuclear power systems that would be necessary to power these things. So you got an electric rocket without a socket for it to plug into. orbital transfer propellant depots for what, given that there are no interplanetary spaceships for it to refuel? Okay, so that's what I mean. The thing comes apart unless there is an overall plan, and there was none, and which I think, frankly, was intentional, not on the part of the NASA leadership, which is difficult to perceive, but on the part of, I think the person driving this thing is John Holdren, who is the president's science advisor, and who is no friend of human spaceflight or industrial civilization, for that matter. Okay. No, it's true. If you read his writings, he calls the United States an overdeveloped country which needs to be deindustrialized as part of an overall plan to bring down human consumption worldwide. Okay? We need to do our part. We need to become less industrialized. And the third world needs to be prevented from being industrialized. How nice to them. Okay. We can save them from traffic. Okay. Anyway, but the good news is that this plan is so bad that it has provoked massive opposition from, and not just from Republicans, but in fact from Democrats, and primarily from Democrats, who have made the very important point that there are 27 electoral votes in Florida, which gave people in the White House second thoughts, and so they have been inclined to compromise a bit. So the Senate has pushed back, and as you know, or may know, they came out with a NASA bill which corrects some of the defects, and one of the things that they're correcting is they want to get work done on a heavy lift booster. Without a heavy lift booster, we're not going anywhere. Okay? You got to understand. Look, all this stuff about being able to construct on orbit with medium lift or small boosters, space assemblages, and going on from there, doing manned missions is ridiculous. Okay? It puts enormous failure mode. I mean, the one thing that we should have learned from the International Space Station program is that's something you don't want to do. Okay, because this program has been a nightmare. Skylab program, we had a space station launched in an afternoon. This thing has gone on and has been quite vulnerable. And of course, if you were launching propellant, which boils off if it's delivered to orbit, it gets much worse. Space station, at least, launches things that can last a long time after they're launched. But we had our first heavy lift booster in 1967. We were on the moon 2 years later. We haven't had a heavy lift booster since 1973, and we haven't gone anywhere since. It's that simple. Okay, so they're putting in money for a heavy lift booster development. That's good. However, I'm unconvinced that a heavy lift booster program can actually go forward to completion in the absence of a concrete initiative to use it. I don't see anybody actually developing a heavy lift booster to flight status unless there's a program that can use it. Otherwise, you're left with a heavy lift booster sitting around with nothing to launch, okay, and a huge human infrastructure associated with it that you're maintaining for no purpose. Now, they say, okay, well, we want to go to an asteroid by 2025 as an intermediate goal towards eventually someday sending humans to Mars. I have no objection to a near-Earth asteroid mission as an intermediate goal towards sending humans to Mars. It makes a fair amount of sense. However, if you had a heavy lift booster and a re-entry capsule and a space habitation module, you have everything you need to do a near-Earth asteroid mission. That's it. So, and this can be done with a 6-month round trip time, which is the same time as a standard space station rotation. So what are we doing, presumably starting development of a heavy lift booster, and then maybe developing one of the other pieces of this afterwards and another piece afterwards, and then sending humans to Mars in 2025, when in fact if we develop the capsule and the heavy lift booster and adapt a space station module, we could do a human asteroid mission in 2016. In other words, if Obama wants to actually accomplish something and accomplish his stated objective of a near-Earth asteroid mission, he could make that the goal, and that's what should be the goal. Okay? And then if you have that hardware set, and you add to that a Mars entry, descent, and landing system and a Mars ascent system, you have all the primary flight elements needed to send humans to Mars. And so the goal could be humans to Mars by 2020. And that is what I believe it should be. There is no reason to do anything less. The idea of stretching this thing, NASA's human spaceflight program is like a taxi with the meter running at a rate of $10 billion a year. You don't want to stay parked. Okay? You want to actually tell the driver to take you where you want to go. So it is financially irresponsible to do an artificially slow program in this way. And furthermore, it is ultimately potentially fatal because they're basically trying the patience of the American public. For how long, I mean, we saw the human spaceflight program do great things with Apollo. But for how much longer are we going to live on that memory? And you know, if you have a program which continues to do essentially nothing for year after year at a cost of $10 billion, for how long will people say, this is something we're willing to fund? This is something we're going to keep doing. It's basically being funded on the supposition that someday it will return to doing the kind of great things it once did. And at a certain point, the people's willing to believe that that is going to happen becomes ever more tenuous if it doesn't happen. So, okay, this is,
I'll go to the next slide.
do you have the ability to go to the slide?
Yeah,
Yeah.
should be. Yeah, okay. Well, it's a regular PowerPoint, right?
You want to switch computers? I have a computer.
We can do that, but I'm not sure why it's. There we go.
Okay. And will it now? All right, yeah.
We're good.
Okay. So this brings me, again, to my fundamental point. If you want to get to Mars, the task is like connecting two posts with rope 10 meters apart. How much rope does it take? It can take any amount, okay, if you let the rope be tangled. But it can be done with 10 meters of rope if it is pulled tight. Apollo was successful because Kennedy pulled the rope tight by saying it had to be done in 10 years. That was the thing that made Apollo successful. If Kennedy had not put that schedule on, if he said, I want to go to the moon sometime, guys, go work on it, then we would not have made it to moon by 1970, and by then we're in the middle of the Vietnam War with a different administration. The thing would be canceled, and space historians today would be going around saying, oh yeah, there was once this idea about sending people to the moon. We all know it never really could have happened. Okay? It's pulling the rope tight. It's having a definite objective and a definite timeline that pulls the rope tight. Okay? And that is what is fundamentally lacking. That is the message. Okay? The fundamental message, the fundamental problem, okay, look, is not that there's going to be a certain gap in American human spaceflight capability. We don't want to extend the shuttle program at a rate of one flight a year or half a flight a year or